Namaste. Welcome to today's session of the Overview webinar series. My name is Dimple and I'm the Director Academic Programs at INDICA. Among the numerous initiatives that we have at INDICA, we also create and curate online courses across multiple IKS disciplines for lifelong learners like yourselves who share our belief in the transformative power of timeless indigenous wisdom. To know more about our work and offerings, please visit our website, indica.courses. A cursory glance there will reveal a plethora of ongoing and upcoming courses and workshops across various streams of knowledge for enrollment. Our ongoing courses include Indian Epistemologies by Dr. V. Shri Nithin, Introduction to Vedic Astrology by Shri Shubham Vyasji, Tirukural and Sanatana Dharma by Shri Vasanta Parthasarthiji and Shri Vinod Kumar Shanmugamji, Ayurvedic Nutrition, a course offered in collaboration with Transdisciplinary University and held by Dr. Megha and Dr. Madhumita. Our upcoming courses include Core Texts and Concepts of Sanatana Dharma by Shri S.N. Sudarshanji, a course on Indian Mathematics by Shri Chandrahas Halaiji, another course on leadership lessons from the Shastras by Dr. Rajshekhar Krishnanji. In addition to these online courses, we are offering a free workshop on Dharmaśāstras, ancient Indian mathematical traditions, contributions, and their modern relevance. This is being conducted by the globally renowned Professor K. Ramasubramanian Garu. So do visit indica.courses and go through our entire catalog to enroll, gift, and recommend. You could also bookmark our website for your easy reference, and do follow us on social media to stay updated about our offerings. The Overview webinar series has been created as an interface for prospective learners to understand what a particular INDICA course would offer so that they can make an informed enrollment decision. We have organized a number of such sessions in the last few years, and you can watch the recordings of those sessions on INDIC Academy's YouTube channel. I will, during the course of our conversation, also paste the link in the chat box so that you can keep it for your reference and also disseminate it with like-minded learners. Today's webinar is about our upcoming online INDICA course, Introduction to Dharmaśāstras. It seeks to fill the gap in contemporary approach and facilitate a better understanding and appreciation of Dharmaśāstras and their relevance to contemporary world by highlighting certain important aspects of their textual landscape and the worldview that informs them. The course begins from the 3rd of January. Live sessions will be conducted on every Wednesday at 6 p.m. IST. Our faculty, the brilliant Shri Nithin Sridhar, shall take you through the details of the course this evening. Before I invite him to present an overview, let me introduce him to you. Shri Nithin Sridhar has a degree in civil engineering. After working in the field of construction for some time, he's been writing on various subjects such as social issues, development, politics, religion, spirituality, and ecology. His first book, Musings on Hinduism, provided an overview of various aspects of Hindu philosophy and society. His book, Samanya Dharma, enunciates upon great general tenets of ethics as available in Hindu texts. His latest book, Ishopanishad, an English commentary, is an English translation and commentary on one of the prominent Hindu texts. However, his most widely read book is Menstruation Across Cultures, a Historical Perspective, which examines menstruation notions and practices prevalent in different cultures and religions from across the world. Shri Sridhar is the director of INDICA Moksha, an INDICA platform dedicated to the dissemination of Advaita Vedanta. He's earlier served as the editor of India Facts, a portal on Indian history and culture. Nitinji is based in Mysuru, Karnataka. The stage is all yours, Nitinji. Please take us through this course.
Thank you, Dimpleji, for the introduction. I'm very happy to be here and happy to be doing this course on a subject which is very close to my heart and something I have been reading, researching, studying, talking about, writing for the last few years. Though I must say at the outset that though this is not the first course on Dharma or Dharmaśāstra, in INDICA itself, I think 2 years back, I did a course called Hindu Ethics on Samanya Dharma. And last year I did a course together with my good friend from Chinmaya University on the Karma Niyama. And but I would I can assure the prospective students that this course is going to be the most comprehensive among the courses that I have done. The older courses were only 15 hours courses, but this one will be a 30-hour course, and a lot of thought has been put into this course, and the purpose is to provide a comprehensive introduction. It is still an introduction, I would say, because the Dharmaśāstra is like a forest, very vast, wide ocean or a wide forest. So, even a 300 hours engagement will not do justice. So, a 30-hour course can only be a glimpse, can only be a gateway or an introduction. So, a comprehensive introduction to Dharmaśāstra, the content of the Dharmaśāstra, and as well as how to approach Dharmaśāstra, how to study Dharmaśāstra, how to interpret Dharmaśāstra, how to understand. So these are some of the things we will be looking in the course. I have just a brief presentation I would like to share to just give some context to the course.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, great. So, as the title says, the course would focus on introducing the Dharmaśāstra. But introducing anything means also, especially in a Hindu context, introduction to a text always begins with introduction to how to approach the text. In technical language, we call it Anubandha Chatushtaya, wherein it speaks about what the text is, what is the subject matter of the text, who is the adhikari or the competent or the eligible student to study that and utilize the text, get benefit from the text, and all these things are discussed in the very at the beginning itself. We see this in, for example, the famous works Brahma Sutra of Shri Vyasa. We see this everywhere. I mean, this is a traditional format. So, in something similar sense, in our course also, I'll be focusing on, as I said, providing an introduction to Dharmaśāstra, but also providing an introduction to the study of the Dharmaśāstra also. Why this is needed? Just an introduction to that introduction. So too many introduction words have been used. Okay. Now, what is the purpose of this course, or why this course is needed, or why we need to engage in Dharmaśāstra or any Shastra tradition, any Bharatiya Shastra Parampara? Why should we engage in it? So, if you think about our identity, who we are, why we are the way we are, then it is not very difficult to understand that we as a nation, we are fundamentally very different from all other countries, all other nations across the world, in the sense that though many people today advocate that India is a nation state of 70 years old or something like that, however, we all realize that our identity is not just 70 years. It is not that we have completely wiped out the past before that. Rather, we continuously, whether consciously or unconsciously, derive and anchor ourselves in our traditions, which have a very longer history, say 2000, 3000 or 4000 or 5000 years. We connect to that civilization, to that culture, to that religious ethos. So basically, we are a civilization state. Bharata is a civilization state, and the foundation of this Bharat, this civilization state of Bharat, is Hindu civilization. And the core of this Hindu civilization is Hindu Dharma, stated in a very simple term. And what we call as Hinduism or Hindu Dharma today, it's more appropriately can be called as Sanatana Dharma, a word which often appears in Dharmashastra text. Esha eva Dharma Sanatana. So certain principles are pointed out and specifically mentioned that these are eternal principles. Sanatana Dharma means Dharma that is eternal, Dharma that is perpetual, Dharma that does not have a beginning and hence that does not have an end. So it is very important to understand that we today are at a very important juncture politically, socially, culturally, religiously, civilizationally. And I think most of you who are attending this webinar have already noticed that we are at a very transformational stage, and or rather I would say a make or break stage. It could go both ways based on how we as a society respond. And there is a great thirst, there is a great quest for self-identity, self-expression and self-actualization, and both in an individual context as well as at a civilizational context. And this quest is only possible, we are able to, if to take it in a meaningful way, it is only possible when we anchor ourselves, anchor our quest itself in the dharmic worldview consisting of Hindu ontology, epistemology, metaphysics and ethics, etc. And through that create a Indic drishti through which we can analyze and negotiate with the world outside. Currently, that is not happening. Currently, what we are doing is we have inherited colonial institutions and we are copy pasting from Western and other places, all the things, all the ethos, everything we have inherited, we have internalized them and we are copy pasting them. While this is one way to move forward, definitely, but that will not be our unique way. I mean, if we have to put a term that is this the Indian way, is this the Indic way, is this the Hindu way, is this the Dharma way, it will not be. We can only claim for ourselves our own drishti, our own unique drishti, our own unique place in the world when we express, we find our identity, our self-expression, our paths to self-actualization rooted in our own worldview. And that worldview is provided by Sanatana Dharma and Sanatana Shastra Parampara. Bharatiya Sanatana Shastra Parampara, basically Hindu textual or knowledge traditions, or Bharatiya Jnana Parampara, you can say as well. So only when we engage with our textual tradition, our knowledge tradition, recover and rebuild our worldview that we have lost in some sense. Actually, we have lost in great sense actually. So we have to recover and rebuild this worldview and then create a Indic discourse based on our own drishti. Only then we can truly say that, look, we are a civilization, we have our own worldview, we have our own identity, we have our own place in the world. This is our place in the world, this is our area of manifestation, our area of flourishing. What we are currently is very, very far away from flourishing. We are merely stumbling around in a half-blind way. Anyways, this provides a very broad, I should say, very kind of philosophical background to why we should study Dharmashastra, why we should take the course. But once we accept this axiom, you could say, or this understanding that we need to engage with Sanatana Dharma and we need to engage with Hindu textual tradition, the Sanatana Shastra Parampara, then of course there are many different Shastras. There are Dharmashastra, Vedanta Shastra, Kama Shastra, Artha Shastra, Natya, Kavya, so many are there. Not everybody may be inclined to everything, and that is fine. Now for those, but one thing is common is every one of us, we are all interested in our social welfare, in our cultural welfare. This socio-cultural space, socio-cultural religious space is one thing which is common to all of us. Irrespective of our personal interest, this space is common to our society as a whole. And what is the Shastra Parampara that more than anything guides this space, has to guide this space, or which provides the intellectual material to create our own discourse about this space, our own solutions to the problems that we face in this space, and it is Dharmashastra. It is, there is Dharmashastra, also Upasana Shastra will come under the religious aspects, but socio-cultural aspect and with overlapping to religious aspects, the space, Dharmashastra is the main. And that is why, you know, the name of our Dharma is Sanatana Dharma. I mean, the name of our religion, for the lack of better term, the name of our civilization, you can say, is Sanatana Dharma. So what is this Dharma? What are the eternal principles of Dharma? That is Sanatana, you are saying Sanatana Dharma. So eternal principles, what are these? And how do we know what constitutes this Dharma and what does not? See, we will be seeing about the first and the second question in the course when I will be teaching. So we won't go there today in defining what Dharma is. But the third question is very key, and I'll just briefly touch upon it, is how do we know what Dharma is and what does not? Because we see this tendency at the present that everybody, you know, speaking about this is Dharma, many people say this is Dharma, this is not Dharma, this is a Dharmic initiative, this is not a Dharma. But I often find that when you probe a little, they have no idea what Dharma is. They are just perhaps intuitively or perhaps instinctively or just you know, in a very colloquial understanding, or just to gain attention, they are putting that name Dharma there and simply calling something something completely audacious things as also Dharma. You know, you see this if you are especially interacting in social media with large number of people from different backgrounds, you will notice this. So the question is, what constitutes Dharma and what does not? Or basically, I mean, the one word answer for this, of course, is Dharmaśāstra. As the name itself says, Dharmaśāstra. A Shastra is a treatise which systematically and authentically present valid knowledge about a subject. And in the case of Dharmaśāstra, it refers to those treatises, those Shastras, those texts which reveal knowledge about Dharma. Now, this is a very simple answer, but we will see in the course, in the due course, why we have to know Dharma from Shastra, why there are no other means. I mean, to put it very in a simple way, from your eyes you can see what is happening in the world, from your ears you can listen to it, but can we see what Dharma is, what Adharma is from our eyes? We can't. Can we hear it? Can we taste it? Can we touch it? No. It is adrushta. It is non-empirical. So being non-empirical, the only source for valid knowledge we have is the source of the Shabda Praman. Again, a very loaded concept. We won't go detail into it. But suffice it to know, in a very worldly example, is if you want to study physics, you go to physics textbook, Resnick Halliday or something else, right? And similarly, if you want to know about Dharma, you have to study Dharmaśāstra. In a very simple everyday sense, this way you can understand. So why we need to study Dharmaśāstra then, or why need to become familiar with the Dharma, is simply because Dharma is that category, that concept, is that principle which is the very core of our Hindu identity, our Hindu worldview, our Hindu ontology, our Hindu epistemology, our Hindu ethics, our Hindu metaphysics. Dharma is at the core. So if we want to build a Indic identity, a Hindu identity, a Hindu worldview today to address today's problem in our way, then you cannot sideline Dharmaśāstra. It has to be taken into account. And that is where the study of Dharmaśāstra is very much needed. Now, despite the fact that Dharmaśāstra occupies such an important place because of its utility, but also in a traditional Indian textual tradition, it has always occupied a very important place. For example, in Mahabharata, when it lists the 14 plus 4, that is 18 Vidyasthanas, the abodes of knowledge, one of the abodes of knowledge is Dharmashastra. If it was not important, why give it as independent identity as a abode of Shastra, right? But despite this traditional understanding of the importance of Dharmashastra, in the contemporary world, especially colonial and post-colonial engagement, uh, in the modern academic world as well as in the on the ground in activism, lot of politics is going on, lot of prejudice is being spread. There's a lot of misinformation, but mainly there is great discomfort. There's bias, there is prejudice, there is a lack of understanding, everything is, but the main thing is there is great discomfort. And this discomfort is especially with Dharmashastra tradition as a whole, but especially with the Smriti Shastras, Smritis such as Manusmriti, etc. The great discomfort owes to the, first of all, of course, the effects of colonization and the destruction of indigenous education systems, education institutions, and the introduction of modern English-based modern education. And a result of this was the society, Hindu society, the Indian society itself has moved away from our dharmic worldview, moved away from our dharmic ideals, moved away from what constitutes the core teachings of dharma, and it has become deracinated, lost touch of the core aspect of our culture and civilization. So, because of this, people find it exceptionally difficult today to relate to the teachings of the Smriti text. Because today, as a result of this colonization and other things, we have internalized enlightenment values, for example, from the West. And these enlightenment values are everywhere in our socio-cultural context. And we have uncritically accepted it. See, it is one thing to critically understand. I mean, we are a civilization who have been always open to knowledge from everywhere. And in the past, we used to meet knowledge from outside with curiosity and openness, yes, but also with criticism, with a critical eye, and engage with them on our own terms. Even when we are adopting them, we are internalizing them, we are transforming them into our own categories. But that is not what happened with this borrowing of the Enlightenment values and the resultant socio-cultural system that we are currently living. So we have uncritically adopted them by criticizing, by discarding, by completely sidelining our own traditions, such as Dharmaśāstra tradition, which used to work in this socio-cultural sphere. So as a result of this, currently we all find actually exceptionally difficult to relate to the teachings of the Smriti text, for example, because of our unfamiliarity with the purpose of the Smriti Shastras, the textual landscape of the Smriti Shastras, and most importantly, the underlying worldview of the Smriti Shastras. We find it difficult, we are unfamiliar with this underlying worldview, we find it difficult to even, correlate with it. And furthermore, to make the matters worse, Dharmashastra texts employ unique language to convey its teachings about Dharma, which in the contemporary context, in our context, because of our own lacuna or whatever may be the reasons, because of current socio-cultural scenario, you could say, the language that the Dharmashastra uses, they pose significant challenges for us to understand and appreciate owing to our presentism. We all know about the famous verse that Manu apparently, sidelines women, oppresses women by saying Nastri Swatantram Arhati. Women do not deserve independence. Now that is the most misrepresented, misunderstood verse, a verse which is actually instructing men about their duty to protect women is being interpreted, misinterpreted, abused as a verse that exploits women. So this is a challenge that we are facing, because Dharmashastra text itself employ unique kind of terminologies and unique phrases. It is rooted in its own worldview. At 500 years from before today, or 300, 400 years before today, the kind of society we live, or even 1000 years before, they would not have found the Dharmashastriya discourse problematic. We are finding it problematic today because of our current situations and the biases and other things that come to us from childhood in the kind of situation we grow up. So, of course, these are all the problems, and I'm hopeful that through this course, and as well as my upcoming book on Manusmriti titled Chatushloki Manusmriti, an English commentary. So I'm hopeful to bridge this gap to some extent. Of course, this is we cannot address everything in the course, and the landscape is very vast, but I will try to address, and we will try to explore together certain aspects of Dharmashastra, its textual landscapes, and the worldview that informs them, and try to understand and in an appreciative way, in an open manner. The course outcome, of course, that I am hoping that the course will generate would be a general understanding of the landscape and the subject matter of Dharmashastra, a good grasp of the fundamental teachings of Dharmashastras, and the interpretive principles that govern them, the right approaches, the right way to approach the study of the Dharmashastra overall, and and the purpose, of course, is to overall develop a overall appreciation among the students for the Dharmashastra tradition, and a conviction that they are relevant today in the contemporary world, and they are not to be just thrown away into dustbins of the past, right? And I mentioned this before also, that through this course I seek to introduce the students to not only an essential tenets of dharma taught in the Dharmashastra, but also introduce them to the method of studying, understanding, and interpreting this text. And one point I want to highlight about the distinguished feature of this course is that the approach adopted in the course will not be historical. It is not a historicist approach. Currently, in our current academia, as well as in popular culture everywhere, the Hindu study texts, not just Dharmashastra, but the larger Hindu texts themselves, they are studied as documentation of history. That is why you see all this Rigvedic age, early Rigvedic, later Rigveda. This is interpolation, that is interpolation. The primitive rituals came first, philosophy came later. See, these are all products of historicist approach to our Hindu texts, a completely problematic approach, which places the text, which perceives the text as relics of the past, whose utility, whose only utility, whose utility has gone away, because they're relics of the past. Their utility was there at that time, no longer today. So whose utility today is only to help uncovering how the ancient society functioned. Like how you exhume a dead body, and then you study it on the table. That is what we want to do to our text by this historicist approach, and put in the mixture the politicization that has utilized this historicist approach as a weapon, and to create many controversial interpretation, controversy in contemporary society, political controversies. I don't go into the details of that. This is not the place. This is the current approach, predominant approach, Indologist approach, but this will not be our approach. This will not be the approach of this course. We will be adopting a philosophical approach, or rather I would say we would be adopting the Shastri approach, the traditional approach, the how our ancestors studied the text. Using that approach, using that bhava, using that attitude towards the text, we will approach the text. And this attitude, what is this attitude? This attitude means treating the text as Shabda Pramana. Words, Shabda means word, or texts which are Pramanas, that is valid sources of knowledge, or authentic sources of valid knowledge, whose teachings are eternal because it's a case of dharma is eternal. Obviously the teachings about dharma has to be eternal, and hence these teachings are very much relevant to us today, here and now, and they're relevant in the future as well. I remember once Professor Vishwadluri telling in the context of Mahabharata that Mahabharata is not a text of the past, it is a text of the future. That pretty much applies to Dharmaśāstra as well, be it Manusmriti or any other Smriti. They are not texts of the past, they are eternal texts. They are relevant, they were relevant 5,000 years before, they are relevant today, and they will continue to be relevant 5,000 years henceforth. This does not mean that these texts do not contain certain information about the contemporary context of their times when they were composed. Of course they do, but the underlying teaching, underlying vision, underlying message, or the underlying method of interpretation is always aimed at the eternal essence of the teaching and not the superficial outer informations. So this will be the main approach, method of approach of this course, method of approach to the text. That I believe, strongly believe, that this is the only correct method to study the text, this philosophical, this Shastriya approach, and not the historicist approach. Now, these are all available in the website, the course syllabus, some of the topics we will be covering. As I mentioned, any course, any text, they always begin with Anubandha Chatushtaya, which is basically the object, purpose, competent student in the context of that particular field of knowledge. In this case, it is Dharmaśāstra. So we'll be seeing what is dharma in that context, because subject matter of Dharmaśāstra is dharma. So what is dharma? Who is the competent seeker? What is the purpose of this study? What is the utility or the fruit of such a study, and all those things. And then we will also spend some time in understanding the textual landscape of Dharmaśāstra tradition, the origination and transmission of these teachings of dharma that is recorded in our own texts. Because currently what is happening in academia and elsewhere, because of this historicist approach and its selective quotations, selective citations from the textual tradition, they often discard, sideline our own accounts about how our Vidya Parampara has come about. Instead, they give speculative analysis that this text must have been post-Buddhist, this text must have been pre-Buddhist, this must have been, this must have 2 layers, 10 layers, there is a Sankhya influence, there is a Vedanta influence, there is this, that, you see this happening with Bhagavad Gita, you see this happening with Mahabharata, you see this happening with Manusmriti, you see this happening everywhere. So again, we will be avoiding all of them. Instead, we will study what our own tradition, our own textual tradition tell us about the origination, the composition, then the transmission of the Dharmaśāstra tradition, Dharmaśāstra Vidyasthana, and the textual landscape, just an overview of that. And then we will also, as I mentioned earlier, we will also studying how to approach the study of Dharmaśāstra. So some key pointers towards this. Briefly, we will be touching upon what I call as hermeneutics of Shraddha, that is the interpretive method rooted in Shraddha, the Karma Siddhanta, the Karma Phala, action and its fruits. This is very, very important for understanding Dharmaśāstra teachings. Locating contextual location of dharma and what it means, why it is needed to understand the text. The subject matter of Dharmaśāstra tradition, various ways these subject matters can be analyzed and understood. And then we will come to some core tenets of dharma. We will look into Samanya Dharma, we will look into Varnashrama Dharma, we will look into briefly Stri Dharma, Purusha Dharma, Raja Dharma. Again, it's a very vast thing. We won't be going into detail in any of them. We will be touching upon concepts. I will definitely be including quotations from the text for sure. I'll be including certain passages from my own books as well and from my work, so that where a particular point have been covered. And then of course I forgot to mention the last section would be dharma as a foundation for moksha. So here again this places the Hindu vision for an individual as well for the world is rooted in the notion of purusharthas, four purusharthas: dharma, artha, kama, moksha, and moksha is upheld as the ultimate purushartha. So we will be looking at what is the role of dharma in the pursuit of moksha, because all of us are speaking today about spiritual pursuit. I am a spiritual person, but we will deal with this question about where dharma comes into play in this whole spiritual pursuit. So we'll be seeing how samanya dharma is very foundational, how varnashram dharma is also foundational for this spiritual pursuit. So this is briefly the course syllabus, and reading lists, these are mentioned in the website again. The first two books are already published, that is Samanya Dharma, Ethical Duties Common to All. This is a must because we'll be reading from it when we come to Samanya Dharma section. Ishopanishad and English commentary is another good one. I may be taking some sections from this when we come to the moksha part, or I may not be taking reading sections directly, but concepts that I have elaborated in that book. So I definitely recommend buying these two books because they will be helpful whether we directly do the quotations and readings from it or not. And we will be doing some quotations at least. It will be helpful in background reading and understanding and appreciating what we are learning in the course. The third book is the upcoming book, Chatushloki Manusmriti and English commentary. I'm hopeful that this book will come out in March or April. The manuscript is with the publisher and they are working on it, and I'm hopeful that it will come out. So as we have finished, we will be halfway through the course. If it comes out, then you can procure it, and then you can read it. And I will be also I will be creating PowerPoint presentations where necessary. I'll be sharing other links to some of my other talks or some other writings of other authors as well, some online available material through the course wherever it is needed. I'll be sharing all those things for your further reading. I think with this I end my introduction. I'm hopeful I would be seeing all of you, at least many of you, if not all of you, in the course, and I'm personally very excited to teach the course, and hopeful that you all will be equally excited to discuss and engage with the text with me in the course. Thank you. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Thank you, Nitin ji. That was really, really informative and insightful. And while you were taking us through the overview, there was a question from one of the participants. They posted the question anonymously, asking if Sanskrit was necessary. So I've said that no, it's not necessary. It would be good to know, but not necessary, of course. And I'm sure all of us will approach the course and the text with devotion and respect, of course. So it is 6:41. If any of the guests here have a query about the course operations or content or anything else, please feel free to post your question in the Q&A session, or if you would want me to add you to the panel, I can do that too. So if there are any questions, please let us know. You are also welcome to, once what will happen is that once this session is over, we will be mailing the recording of today's session to everyone who has registered for this particular webinar, even if they did not attend it in person, so that they can go through it. And if you have any questions when you go through the recording later, please feel free to send us your queries at reachout@indica.courses. The course begins from January 3rd, and we have Nitin ji, there is a question by Toshi ji.
let me take it up.
Yes.
What is the end goal of the course for the participant? So the end goal is, of course, a better appreciation of our Shastra Parampara and a more confident. I'm hoping that, to give a good introduction to the teachings of the Dharmashastra, because Dharma is something which is very relevant in our day-to-day life, in our socio-cultural scenario, in our individual practice, in our ethical life. So this course provides those foundational principles which you can implement in life to begin with, and then which you can use to build your worldview of how to understand the world around you, what is the Indic way, what is the Dharmic way to understand many socio-cultural phenomena that is happening around you, and more importantly, how to study the text on your own, at least to make a beginning, especially the Dharmashastra text. And though we'll be focusing more on the Smriti Shastras, the principles are same even if you're studying Itihasa Puranas also. And Itihasa and Puranas are great beginning points. And though, people assume that it is easy to study them because they're narrative, they're stories, right? They're accounts. It is easy, but when you reflect upon them to understand them, then all kinds of problems start up. So this course will help to untangle those issues, because they are also Dharmaśāstras. The very definition of Itihasa or Purana says that they are written for the purpose of teaching Dharma, right? So they are also Dharmaśāstras. What the Smritis give in a very systematic textbook manner, I would say, these Itihasa Puranas give in a more narrative format. So the end goal is appreciation of the Dharmaśāstra tradition, better knowledge, better information about what Dharmaśāstra tradition is, what Dharma is, and what are the tenets of Dharma, and then based on that, how I can enrich my own life. For example, based on these dharmic teachings, what I can practice, what I may not be able to practice, and removing of certain misconceptions about this Dharmaśāstra tradition that is very, very prevalent, and then equipping oneself to better study the Shastras in a better manner. So I think I would state it that way.
Thank you, Nitinji. There's one more question by Ravi Kumarji. If you could have a look at it.
Yeah. Will you explain Shodasha Samskaras? If time permits, we may be touching upon it. Again, we have too much to cover and too little time, but we will be touching upon it. And as I mentioned, one of the reading lists is the Ishopanishad book, and that has a very big section on the Shodasha Samskaras. So that is why I suggest I have put in those reading lists, because there will be many concepts we'll be touching upon. There will be many I may ask you to read further.
Before you answer the question by Subramanian D. Garu, I just wanted to, for the benefit of the guests who are here, this is an introductory course, and we would certainly be evaluating an intermediate and advanced course subsequently. So I just wanted to also leave that out for everybody's easy reference. So now for Mr. Could you just look at Mr. Subramanian?
Yeah, I'm just reading. Is this a preparatory course to realize and recognize moksha? I think not just this course. No course will be able to help you to realize moksha directly. See, even a great Vedantic courses by great masters can only point you that this is the reality, and help you. If you have a guru and acharya, then they will give you diksha, they will give you guidance to what you can have to actually practice and then attain it. So of course, such realization is not the not the end goal of courses such as this, online courses such as this. No online course can ensure a realization of a person. Let me put it very.
But perhaps the intent or our humble endeavor was help in recalibration. What happens is, as Nitinji also spoke about, we seem to, the modernity seems to take us far from who we are, and our understanding of dharma, how we conduct ourselves, whether we actually follow the Purushartha framework and all. These courses, especially this one, is an attempt for that recalibration to happen. Moksha is a long way
Yes,
from.
yes,
This is
definitely.
this is
Uh,
just a humble attempt at
Yes,
recalibration.
recalibration, and it is preparatory, as Subramanian
Yes,
ji has said in another
yes,
comment. It is
yes,
preparatory in the sense, uh, it as the last section in the syllable shows, it shows, it gives a roadmap for spiritual pursuit, for pursuit of moksha,
yes.
and tells you where we are and what is the method, what is needed for us. So where the dharma practice, dharma acharana comes into picture, because it is foundational. I mean, no matter how many Vedanta courses one takes or how many gurus one approach, how many dikshas one takes, without the foundation of practice of dharma, dharma anusthana, dharma acharana in life, none of these practices will fructify, will take you towards moksha. So it is preparatory in that sense that we will be highlighting upon a very important aspect of spiritual journey, which is often neglected in many of the classes, many courses, many teachings on moksha.
To take your physics example that you cited in the beginning, it's like before going to quantum physics, we need to know elementary physics. So perhaps, we'll take it. And so, you're right. It is a prep course, maybe, but even I wouldn't call it a prep course. But yeah, I think we are on the same page in terms of understanding what the intent for the course is. Do we have any more questions from the audience? Please feel free to either raise your hand so that we can add you to the panel, or you could just post something in the Q&A. Rajiv ji has asked a question.
Yes,
Nitin garu.
yeah, I'll answer that.
Ah.
Was Dharmashastra knowledge imparted to all varnas in the past? Yes and no, I'll say both yes and no, because I have to add a clarification or explanation to properly answer that question. Yes, because the knowledge of dharma, of course, has to be with everybody for them to practice dharma, right?
Yes.
When you say that a society has to be dharmic, obviously that means that the society has to first have knowledge about dharma to practice it, right? So now the answer coming to the question of no is, why I said no is, see, there are many ways to transmit that knowledge, and not everybody has to. For example, today we have this notion of everybody has to go to school and study from first standard to 10th standard. This is a very modern notion. Our notion of vidya, arjan, or gaining vidya was very, very different. That because we did not have a school system in the way the modern school system is, does not mean people were illiterate, right? So now, how dharma was transmitted. To give you an example, some people used to study Dharmashastras such as Smriti Shastras, Veda Shastra, and so on, for many, many decades. All these Shastras are so huge, it is a lifetime dedication of study. So they would be studying in a Guru Parampara, under a Guru, following Brahmacharya, following all the rules, regulations, everything. Their life was dedicated to that. And they would write, they would teach. Now, based on these teachings, there were many secondary works created which was equally very widely transmitted. And based on that, different formats of writings were come. For example, if you see Kalidasa's poetries, it is all filled with dharma teachings. There are many, many other such works. Ramayana and Mahabharata are two, Ramayana, Mahabharata and Puranas. So they are all meant for transmission. The texts themselves say that we are the fifth Veda, we are meant for transmission, right? So now they were also staged as plays, as dramas, dance, plays, and there were also pravachanakaras who were teaching, right? Even today we have pravachanakaras. So you see, not everybody did adhyayana of the Dharmashastra, the study in a Gurukula format, in a traditional format. Not everybody did it. But nobody was kept away from the knowledge, because there were other means of transmission of that knowledge. So that is why I said yes and no. Think about it this way. Even today, Dimple ji gave a very good example about this quantum physics. We all have heard about quantum physics, but do we know what quantum physics is? Obviously no. Very small number of experts, they are dedicating their full life to quantum physics, or they're dedicating full life to theoretical mathematics. I think that is a more better answer. But most of us are engaged with engineering, which is basically applied mathematics, right? Applied physics. So, and even there, not everybody is actually familiar with the technicalities of applied engineering. We will be the beneficiary of those studies, right? Similar in the case of Dharma. Very few experts study this Dharmaśāstra because it will take years of studying and understanding and refining. And the next stage is applied practical aspect. Larger number will be understanding, have better understanding, transmission, and then the largest mass will be beneficiary of that, because everybody cannot be sarvagya, right? It's as simple as that. I think there is two more questions. I'll just
Yeah,
read it out.
Subramaniam ji has asked one question.
Will you touch upon Yoga Shastra? Yoga Shastra, I don't, we may touch upon very shortly, but there is no context here for touching upon or doing greatly for Yoga Shastra, because we will be speaking about Dharmaśāstra. But of course, nothing is unrelated. So when we speak about moksha, we will touch upon Yoga Shastra briefly, maybe say in 2 minutes or 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So, and I will direct you to some work if you are interested more on that. That's okay, we can do.
Going by the past experience in Nithin ji's courses, the Q&A sessions extend, and while he's saying 5 minutes, 2 minutes, there have been instances when it can go on and on. So, I mean, he's already mentioned that he's conducted so many courses on the platform. So, you are all in for a treat, because he's a very patient, erudite faculty. We have a very interesting question by Toshi ji. Nitin ji, just have a look, please.
Yes, I was just reading that. Very interesting question and very amazing question, I would say. So I'll just read out. I have heard, I'll just read the important part. Many say that Hinduism is a performative faith. So how will this course help the participant put to practice the knowledge of 4 pillars, Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha, in such a way that it will enhance the quality of one's day-to-day life? I think a very direct answer would be that when you mention that we have to practice Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha in our day-to-day life. So the first question which will come is, what is Dharma, what is Kama, what is Artha, what is Moksha? So this course will focus on the first question, what is Dharma? And in that context, we may also touch upon, again I'm saying we'll touch upon this. So we'll definitely try to touch upon Dharma in the context of all others, Artha, Kama and Moksha. Anyways, we will definitely be touching upon interconnection between Dharma and Moksha. And when we will be doing that, we will include the Artha and Kama part as well. So because what the Shastra says, lead a balanced life, balance all the 4 Purusharthas, right? So very straightforward answer is, unless you know what Dharma is, or what is the sources for getting knowledge about Dharma and how to interpret these sources, how will you know what is Dharma? So it's a very fundamental thing. So without knowing what is Dharma, you cannot practice Dharma. So without practicing, then what performative faith we are speaking about, right? So it addresses in an intellectual manner what Dharma is, but then it will give enough ideas, enough pointers that each student can analyze it, reflect upon it, and practice it, implement it in their own lives based on their own context and situations.
Thank you for answering that, Nitin ji, and thank you for asking this question, Toshi ji. We are at 6:56, so if there are no more questions, I would just like to thank you, Nitin ji, of course, and the wonderful audience that joined us on this Saturday evening. We are truly, truly grateful for your participation in today's webinar, and it's actually your continued support and eagerness to learn that inspires us to curate such educational experiences for you. So don't forget to enroll in this course and also explore our other courses on indica.courses and join our learning community. Thank you so very much, everyone. And we wish you a wonderful journey of exploration and discovery with Indica. We'll see you soon in the next online event. Till then, namaste and thank you very much.
Namaste, everyone.